Hello and welcome to another episode of Raise the Bar. I'm Troy Haynes, the Sky High and Fly guy of Sky High and Fly Jump Lab, and we're here on Raise the Bar with we're going to be here with two really important guests, James and Jordan Randall. James is a coach, and Jordan is his son, and Jordan is just finishing his junior year, enjoying his summer where he's just been a prolific young high jumper. Amazing kid. He's already jumped 7.2 1/4, which is what, 219. He has jumped well over his own head as he only stands about 5'7.5". Amazing jumper. I had the opportunity, it's been 3 years, and James came to me with a request for a video analysis of Jordan's jumps. And after breaking them down, recommended some things they could do to achieve higher heights. I believe at the time that he came to me, Jordan was already jumping about 6'8". So we'll get into that story. I've got looks like James and Jordan logging in to the green room.
All right. What's up, coach?
Hey, how you doing, young man?
Good, how are you?
I'm good. I'm good. Again, we're here
Hey,
on Raise the Bar. There's James. James
hey,
and
Troy, I'm going to get another device so
okay.
that way we're all kind of, is that cool?
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. So you enjoying your summer, Jordan?
Yeah, I am.
Yeah. How long has it been since you've been on the runway and jumping around?
Last time was nationals.
Uh-huh. Good. Yeah, it was one of the things, if you guys hadn't asked me, I would have popped off sooner or later and said, make sure you take a good chunk of time off because
Yeah.
your season is so long. We really, here in California, there really is no indoor, to speak of. And there's more than there used to be, but it's not really a season for us because there's almost no need for it. We've always got somewhere to train. So yeah, it's nobody really does much with it. Geez, I've been at Vanguard for 4 years already. And even for them, national indoors and all that, all of our qualifiers for indoors are outdoor meets because there aren't
Oh,
any
really?
facilities like that out here. There's just no need for it in Southern California. It's never, I shouldn't say it's never bad weather, but there's usually never a stretch of bad weather. Like we might get bad rain for a day or two or something, but there's just no extended period of time where you are forced indoors. So
Yeah.
therefore, there's no real indoor facilities. They would just go to waste, and and therefore no season. So if there are any big door meets that you're going to compete at as a Western university, basically you just go to outdoor qualifiers for your
Oh.
indoor meets. And then it's weird because you have to learn very quickly how to deal with those conditions that you're used to. If it's,
Mhm.
I can never tell by looking at what you're jumping at on videos how small it is. I don't know that
Yeah.
people, especially on the West Coast, have any idea how cramped a lot of indoor facilities are. Now, some of them look spacious, but my experience has always been, I've only been to a couple places and I hated it. Just absolutely hated the way it's set up. And I always think, we get the worst treatment as high jumpers. So,
Yeah, definitely.
nobody really cares about us, right? You just stick you in a corner
Yeah.
somewhere or whatever. But it's like, hey, gotta get the fans involved. I love seeing some of the stuff that you got. So inside of all this rest, what kind of rest? What have you been doing with your summer as a normal kid?
Well, I've still been like training and everything, but I've just been taking it easy. That's it really. Like some light training
Hmm.
to call it like plyos.
Yeah. Okay.
Mm.
What the this is coming up on your senior year, right?
Yeah.
So, what is your schedule like as far as school? Like, I know you're one of the most sought after jumpers here in the nation, I'm sure, and I know everybody's been coming to call, which is awesome for you guys. And but what are you looking to do as far as your academic career? Where are there some of those concerns coming across as you're looking for places to jump?
Not a whole lot. Like where my grades are right now are better than where I need them to be at
Hmm.
the schools that I want to go to.
Right. What are you looking to study? What are you interested in as far as your backup plan for athletics?
I want to become a real estate agent
Hmm.
with track.
Okay. Yeah, well,
Yes.
tell you what, if you've got your personality shining out there, you're going to get a chance to make a lot of contacts. That's
Yeah.
that's for sure. Awesome. Um, so this, I'm trying to think back now. When you guys checked in with me, I know it was 3 years ago. I can't remember. I can't remember if you had yet to start indoor your freshman year or if you guys had already started by the time we did our first consult. Do you remember how that goes? It seems like I've known you guys forever. So
Um, I think it was indoor my freshman year. My dad called you and asked for help.
It was actually after um, outdoor middle school.
Oh,
okay.
okay.
So
Yeah, because
before
he
the
had
season
jumped
started.
6'5" as an eighth grader,
Right.
and we I, I was trying to figure out like I don't know what to do, so we had reached out at that point.
Wow. So yeah, it's been your whole high school career that I've got to watch from afar. That's pretty amazing. So as a background to everyone out there, again, we're talking with James and Jordan Randall. James, the dad of one of the most sought after young high jumpers here in the U.S. after his clearance of 7.2 1/4 last year, right? 219.
Yeah.
Right. So, and your stature is a little bit on the smaller side. How tall are you, Jordan?
5'6" or 5'7".
Depending on who's measuring.
Yeah.
So 5'6" or 5'7", and that's Spud Webb territory. If I don't know if your dad has told
Yeah.
you
No, we
Spud
know who
Webb,
Spud
but
is.
he won a dunk contest one year, the one that Jordan decided not to do, but had the most spectacular dunk run that anybody had ever seen, and I do think a lot of it that made it more impressive was the fact that he was just tiny. He's 5'6", and
Mhm.
literally on all his timing dunks, where the lob, throw it up, let it bounce, let it go up. I mean, he literally let it bounce and get up close to the rim before he would take off,
Yeah.
so that he could fly. That long to get there. Guys that are taller just don't realize, I don't think, and some coaches don't realize what an advantage it is for taller athletes. And like I
Mhm.
said, your size proves that it doesn't really matter, what height you are to jump high, but it
Yeah.
is a little bit more rare. I don't know if you and your dad have done the research. The great shorter, quote unquote, high jumpers. There's Stephen Holm, who's tied for the world record lead of jumping the highest over your own head at about 2 feet. I think he's 5'11 1/4 or something and jumped 7'11 1/4, right? And then I'm sure you've heard the name Franklin Jacobs.
Yeah.
He jumped what 7'7 3/4 at 5'7 3/4, right? So we're in the 2 foot above your own head category. Now, if you're 5'6" on the shorter measuring stick, then at 7'6" you're going to join some elite elite company, right?
Yeah.
But it's funny because that is one of the things. Barbara Bachoka from Canada, she came down to train, and we both came up with the opinion that you're not, quote unquote, you're not really a high jumper unless you're jumping higher than your own head. It doesn't
Yeah.
count. So, and that it may sound kind of stuffy to some people, but it's like, there's the other end of the scale from you. Guy named Fabian Delrid. I saw some of his posts. I forget. You know me, I just wing it on out there. I'm like, hey man, you want to do a podcast? And he accepted, and he had jumped. Geez, he's 6'9", 6'9 1/2". I don't know if you've ever seen his stuff. I'm gonna send you guys some of his stuff if you hadn't seen him because he's a beast. Guy lifts like crazy in the weight room. He's not. I don't know if you guys ever watched oh, who is it? Bondarenko. You've seen
Yeah, I've
Bondarenko's
seen some of Bondarenko's stuff.
Bondarenko's stuff on Instagram is hilarious. I mean, he does. What does that guy do? He doesn't do anything. From what I've seen, I've seen him do a little jumping around with a 25-pound plate. I've seen him do banded leg extensions against one wall where he's holding a one-legged squat and doing, this real skinny little band doing leg extensions against the wall. And I'm just like looking at him going, this guy jumps 7'11 1/2, but I'm like, he's 6'8", right? And he runs like a deer, but you're like, I can't get anything from his stuff, and when I see Fabian's doing, all the stuff I did, hang cleans, quarter squats, jump this, jump that, and he's just a beast in the way. It looks like he's cleaning well over 300 pounds. But anyway, he's 6'9" and has jumped 7'7". So,
Yeah.
over his head, but not even a foot. Like I jumped a foot over my head just barely by, 3.5, which you're soon gonna beat me, by the way.
Oh,
Can't wait for that. So, tell us a little bit, James and Jordan, about your athletic background. Like, did you started jumping? Obviously, at least by the eighth grade. I'm guessing it might have started a little bit
yeah.
earlier. And as an eighth grader, you'd already jumped 6'5", which I didn't jump until my junior year in high school. So, tell us a little bit about the background. How'd you get started in high jump?
Well, I just started track because I needed something to do in between football and basketball season. And then tried high jump one time, figured out I was just gonna do that because I was pretty good at it.
Hmm.
And then yeah, just took off from there. And I started that in fourth grade.
Fourth grade. Okay, so. This is an area that I need your guys' help in because I'm still pretty much of a newbie. Like out here in California, there's decent grassroots high jump, right? And every summer, as we roll into the summer, I will get a few Junior Olympics kind of parents. Their kids have tried it during the year. They're at the local track club, and somebody tried high jump, right? And there's never a high jump coach, of course. And so, if they show any proclivity towards it all, they'll end up calling up and saying, "Yeah, we need some help. We're going." There's like two meets, right? There's this year they had one at Cerritos College, one of the first qualifiers. The next one's going to be in Vegas, and I think that's it. It's like one, two, boom, you're at the final, right? So it's not this extended season, but it's kind of it's outside of the high school stuff, which I totally get, right? And out here, our junior highs generally either do or don't do any competing, and it doesn't seem to be super organized. It might be within the district, sometimes or a small circle of schools, and they may have a championship, quote unquote, but it's not very big, and it doesn't go any farther than that. So how does it work with you guys out there? Is it a big thing or is it, small time?
We're pretty fortunate in like the town that we live in. All of our elementary schools that feed our high school all have elementary sports programs that start in the fourth grade.
Awesome.
Now we're a little bit of a rarity. Like we've got a town that's 20 miles to the east of us, and I think there's like half a dozen elementary schools in their town that feed their high school, and they do nothing.
Hmm.
So we're really, really fortunate. Like we make a really, really big deal about spring track. So like the teams all get together. They do all of our meets either at one or the other of our middle schools or our high school. They have, I believe they do four in the regular season, and then they do a championship final on a Friday night at our high school, boys and girls both, full events, and make this really, really big deal about it. And so like our all city track meet has always been like, man, that's a really, really big deal. But
Yeah.
we're kind of the rarity. Like when you're talking about the Junior Olympic stuff, um, that ends up being more around here what happens. But it's like you're talking about. There's a couple qualifiers.
Yeah.
Got a first qualifier meet, the regional, and then the national championship. And it's a big travel. Like
Right.
they'll do a JO meet here in the state. That's the qualifier. Then like this year's regional was over in Illinois,
Right.
and then the championships down in Savannah, Georgia.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
And what's the difference? I still don't know what's the difference between the AAU version and the USATF version.
we've really not dug into it enough, honestly, because we've been fortunate that like our elementaries had all of our stuff,
Hmm.
our middle schools had all of our stuff, and like right now, like he could still be jumping, like we could have went
Right.
down the that path, but when we got done with Nike Nationals, we'd already been jumping since December. It's like
Oh man.
We're done. We're done. Like we don't need to go clear into
Yeah.
July. We're done.
Yeah, I was surprised asking Jordan a few minutes ago, what he'd been doing, and he said that, no, he hasn't been jumping, but you guys have already been doing lifting and some plyos, and I'm like, every time I hear the word plyos and, and training during the summer, I reflectively reach for my knees and my shins, because I just remember, how beat up I usually was, by the end of the outdoor season, and then also, Jordan and I were talking about, I said, out here on the West Coast, we really don't understand indoor at all because there's really no need for indoors out here as far as training because the weather's so nice. And there literally aren't any that I can think of. Now, I may not have asked the right people or the right questions, but there just aren't any venues out here to train indoors. It doesn't make any sense. Um, by necessity back east, once you guys get snow on the ground or once got a lot of raining or flooding or, whatever goes on in certain areas. And again, Lord help the people in Texas. It's unbelievable
Yeah.
what's going on there. But there's nothing like that out here. So our seasons aren't anywhere near as long as yours tend to be, I'm sure, because you had that indoor push seems pretty well organized. And I know Jordan's been to the indoor nationals now, 3 years and this year coming up. So yeah, it's a different animal, but it makes for an ungodly long season, like you said. So that was one of those things. If you'd asked me, as before we do our consult this year, is I'm like, man, the volume. That's the part that I wish I could tell the younger jumpers because I just remember when I was Jordan's age, I would just jump and jump and jump. I wouldn't think much about it. Once my shin started to bug, I might start worrying about slowing down a little bit here and there. And I have become a big fan of the guys like, the knees over toes guy,
Hmm.
or, anybody that's showing a lot of prehab work or, what they can do to, ameliorate the effects of all the training and, kind of putting it before it happens, ice baths. I remember that was revolutionary for me. And I wished I'd have known that at my state finals because we had a 2-day meet for the first time that I'd ever been to. It was qualifying one day and finals the next. And I did not do well the second day. I couldn't get off the ground. It was too heavy. I weighed 180, which, not big and fat by a lot of standards. But then again, some of the kids you're jumping against in high school are maybe 150, or one, depending on how tall and thin, and I never recovered that well. Just one day. You give me one day, that next day I wouldn't do anything. And the next day I'd be okay. But coming back that second day, man, if somebody would have said, hey, it was like, I always make the joke if it was Back to the Future and I could go back and talk to my younger self, I'd be like, hey, ice bath, go 2 hours minimum, that night. I mean, I would have gladly done that because the next day I just had nothing. So yeah, the wear and tear, your guys' wear and tear must just be amazing. So tell us first of all, how was the Nike Nationals meet? I didn't get a chance to go up and see you guys. It was just outrageously expensive by the time I, came up with that idea. But how was that jumping like? And the whole competition, the guys you got to jump against, lay it out for us.
The experience was super cool. It's always nice being in Oregon, like going from Indiana where it's just a bunch of flat cornfields and going up in the mountains. I wish I could have jumped. I think I should have jumped a lot better, or I wish I could have. But yeah, and the guys there were all amazing to be around. Like that's how it usually is though with high jump. Like people are always usually great to be around.
Yeah. Who are the guys that you met and jumped against that were you said you didn't jump as well as you'd like to. What was the height that you jumped? What place did you take? And who are some of these other guys?
I jumped 7 foot at or 7 foot and a quarter inch at the national meet and at the U20 meet. That was really bad. I only jumped 6'9.5".
Hmm.
And then the two guys who beat me PR'd by a pretty good amount. Micah Lockett, his PR was 7'1" before nationals, and he jumped 7'2 1/4. And Toro Bassi, he jumped 7'4 1/4, which was crazy.
Yeah.
And his PR was 7'2" before that,
Where are
I
those
think.
guys from?
Texas.
Both Texas.
Hmm.
A hotbed of Texas talent still, track and field and football, right? So,
Yep.
yeah, California, Texas, LSU, and what, Florida, most would say.
Yep.
Yeah.
And Georgia and Bama.
Uh-huh, right. So, but that's third, right? You got third in both of those meets?
I got there was like a 10-way tie for fourth in the U20 meet, and I got third at the national meet.
Hmm. And then how many days did you get in between those two? They seem like they're pretty close.
They were back to back.
Yeah, yeah,
So there was one day in between because he jumped.
Oh, yeah, yeah, yeah. One
U20
day.
was Friday, Nike was Sunday.
yeah.
Yeah.
But still, again, a long season for you guys, and one day is better than none for sure. But that's a quick turnaround. So
Yeah.
yeah, completely understandable. Well, hey, so that finished up your junior year. So
Hmm.
let's do some stat work so far. So where are you at in the state of
Number one.
Indiana in your whole career as far as now there's current rankings, right? What about all time and all that stuff? Where are we standing?
I'm not sure. I think I'm fifth. Am I fifth? I don't know.
Tied for fifth.
Yeah.
Tied for fifth as far as the history goes.
Yep.
Yeah.
And then currently, what's his ranking in the state?
First.
First in the state. Okay.
Hmm.
And then you did win. Did you win both indoor and outdoor this last season?
Oh, yeah.
So that's the first time that's happened, correct? This year.
Yeah.
And then as a sophomore, I think you split. Did you split?
Hmm.
You got a win in a second,
Yeah. Or winning a third.
win in a third. Tough state. What
Yeah.
then as a freshman, when you first started making those runs, how did you do your freshman year, indoor and out?
Uh, well, indoor I did pretty good. I got second, but outdoor I actually got like heat stroke and then
Mhm.
had to stop jumping.
You know what? You're in good company there. I shout out to the great Doug Nordquist, who's a golfing buddy. His coach was my coach, and he was in let's see, in 1984, an Olympian. You may know he jumped with Dwight Stones, and one of my other golf buddies, Leo Williams, was the alternate on that team. So I get to hobnob with those guys a little bit. There was I forget the third guy that made that team because Leo was the alternate. But anyway, Doug jumped in 84. Then in 88, he did not make that team. And I think it was in 90, somewhere in there, that Doug jumped 236. So he's jumped seven,
Oh,
eight, three quarters. And what was the point of the story? Oh, he was one of the top ranked guys, and it was either the Olympic trials or I want to say maybe the nationals one year. Because Doug will be the first to tell you he is a pasty white guy. I mean, this guy looks like he's never been in the sun, right? So if the sun turns on, he's going to burst into flames. So he was at one of those meets where it was just 98 and super high humidity and no cooling effects whatsoever, right? And he ended up getting heat stroke that year, and he was favored to win. He was having an outrageous year. I think that was the year he jumped seven, eight, three quarters, and he was just on a roll, and he was just completely destroyed by the heat, and so. Which always raises the question, why would you do that to athletes at a huge meet? Um, I remember I want to say my junior year at competing at the Pac-10s, which was 1985. We were at the University of Arizona, and they did not start the meet until 7 o'clock because it was so hot. It would have been dumb to start the meet in the middle of the day because it was like 100 and whatever. And so they very wisely had planned ahead, and we didn't start till late. So very thankful for that because I can handle the heat a little bit, but I would not like to have to, see where those endurances run out. So now your high school career, we're getting ready to roll into your senior year. So let's talk goals. What are the goals for both indoor and out as you head into your last roll?
which just I just like to jump a minimum of 7'4" and a quarter because that gets me the state record.
Hmm.
And anything above that, I'll be happy with.
and you definitely want to defend both titles, right?
Yeah. Oh yeah.
For sure. Who are the up and coming kids to fear? Is there anybody out there jumping high enough that you got to have them on your radar?
State or national?
State first and then national.
There's one dude from Indy. He jumped 7 foot. He's in my class. He's pretty good.
Hmm. Okay, and
Yeah.
how old is he? Is he gonna be a senior like you?
Yeah.
Okay. And then in the States, in the nation last year in the States, I was there a kid because you said there was at least the one that jumped 7.4, but wasn't there some kid jumping 7.6 at least one
Oh,
season?
talking about Scotty?
Well, he's in college, right?
Yeah. Are you
So
talking to Kaya?
I thought I saw some high school kid jump 7.6 last year, but I'm not sure.
There was a 7.5, was it 7.5 and a quarter, Jordan?
Yeah.
Yeah. So there was a 7.5 and a quarter. Um, and because this gets brought, we'll just leave it at that.
Yeah.
It's a little controversial, but
Yeah.
behind.
So
Okay.
don't know,
Yeah.
Troy. You know this as a jumper. So there are those guys that catch lightning in a bottle,
Oh yeah.
and then it doesn't happen again.
Right.
So it hit, and
We'll just leave it at that.
yeah,
Yeah.
he jumped 7 foot a couple other times, but yeah.
Yeah.
So yeah,
Interesting. Yeah, there's been a couple that come through. Like most of my the running joke of the show is that, I get most of my information off Instagram. So I was watching a young kid, and I'll send this to you guys when we do our next consult. But I saw this one kid who looks like just a tall, skinny kid that has never jumped before. And they show that the feet is he opens at 5'8", and he literally looks like he might be 6'6" and like 140 pounds or something. And he's running and he's just kind of meandering towards the
Yep.
bar. It's not what I would really call a curve, but he's trying to turn his body to the left. And it's like his body's fighting him the whole time, but he keeps sticking his left foot across his right and turning. And then when he hits his takeoff, he's getting air, like easy air, great knee drive across, and a lot of other things. And I was watching it just going, wow, I don't think he has a clue what he's doing because he's putting both arms behind him, bracing himself as he falls. And there's so many little things. Me as a coach, I'm like, oh, dude, give me this guy for like 5 minutes. I would be able to fix like three or four things that would even add more pop, right? But I'm watching it going, wow, this guy's got some talent. And I just remember one other time that was just like and I need to do a better job. I was so busy this last year. I usually will just hit save on those posts so I can look at them later at least, if I don't remember who the kid is or whatever's going on. But yeah, it seemed to me that I remember seeing somebody, jumping out of the building like that. But yeah, the lightning in a bottle is true. And that's one thing I think, Jordan, your advantage is the fact that there might not be a whole lot of changes coming for you physically. Like
Mm.
you're already pretty used to operating at your height. Like, is anybody predicting any a growth spurt of any kind in the next next year or two?
No, and I remember I always used to complain because I've been like the same height since eighth grade. Now I love it because like it makes high jump a lot cooler.
Hmm.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I'd like to be tall, like it'd be cool, but like being short, like I realize is like pretty cool because like jumping like this high at pretty short or
Yeah, well,
like
it
because all the
definitely gives you a reputation, right? And everybody's going to want to see, hey, that's that kid? He's only like 5'6", but he's jumping
I get
7 feet.
I get that a lot.
Yeah, I mean, you're already, like I said, in rarefied air. You're shorter than either of those other two guys we mentioned, so you don't have to get
Oh
it
yeah.
to jump that 2 foot barrier. But tell us a little bit too. We mentioned we just glossed over the fact you said you started tracking between football and basketball. So what positions did you play? Both in football, when first time I saw you run and jump, I was thinking you look like a tailback or a fullback. So
Yeah, but like that. But well, our offense is yeah, like a tailback, slot receiver kind of thing.
right. And
Yeah.
then in basketball, were you a guard, point
Yeah.
guard, or shooting guard?
Hmm.
Yeah. So easy picks there. And then
Yeah.
was no temptations at all to keep playing. I make the joke sometimes too. I all the guys that I knew that were like me, like 6'3", 180, 190 in high school, ended up being almost to a T, were either wide receiver slash free safeties or just free safeties. I was one.
Yeah.
I knew a bunch of them that were like that. I jumped against James Lott, who went to Texas, right? He was a 2 or 3 time NCAA champ who started at free safety on the football team and then would
Oh.
jump, 7-7 in football. Or once
Mhm.
football was over, he jumped 7-7 in track. So yeah, that was the running joke there. But no temptations to get back to those sports.
Basketball, no, but football, I would love to play, but I can't get hurt.
Yeah. Well, I do remember that too. I broke my hand my senior year playing football, so
Yeah.
it cost me a few weeks for sure. Um,
Yeah.
So give us the lay of the land now, Jordan. You've got, I know we have many suitors coming from around, in the States, and everything's been changing, since you and I have been talking, you and I and your dad. The landscape of college athletics has changed drastically within the last 2 years. Just the advent of the portal alone would make it interesting. But there's the added wrinkle of NIL money. And for those that aren't paying attention, I think it's just going to continue to change where pro sports has basically moved its way down into the colleges.
Yeah.
The colleges are now, you might as well consider them the minor leagues of
Mhm.
of the bigger sports. And the other part that I always think is when people start talking about money and track and field together, I go, well, you're not talking about the right things because there
Yeah.
really isn't a lot of money still
Mhm.
in track and field. If anybody's talking about their NIL deal for track and field, they'd have to be someone like yourself who's either a state champ or very, very highly ranked because these programs don't just want to get some kid that's, jumped 6'10". I jumped 6'10" my senior year and I didn't have anybody knocking my door down. This is 1982. And
Mhm.
ended up walking on at UCLA. They're like, "Oh yeah, you can come try out for the team." I think nowadays I've heard people getting some decent deals, jumping 6'8" or 6'10", and I'm like, well, where
Wait,
was that
really?
when I was at school? But I know the trade secret is that there's not really that much money floating around. I mean, if somebody says they got a great deal for you, then what does that mean? You're going to get a full ride. Okay, full rides are great. If they can pay you any kind of salary monthly, I would be like, first of all, I don't know how big that could be. And secondly, I'm like, it better be a big football or basketball school, right? To have money
Yeah.
downhill from that. Because as we both know, there's not a lot of track and field money because if you're not being seen on TV, right, and you don't have say a big meet at home to get people to pay you, these meets that I go to for Vanguard, I love them, but I have yet to pay anything at the gate to walk in. As a coach, you just walk in. Nobody's saying, "Hey, come over here." And I think there is some of that, but the crowds are too small.
Yeah.
There's just no money. So, who's coming after you, and how big is the pocketbook they're waving around at you?
Like colleges that you're
Yeah.
talking.
hmm
Well, I'm good to talk about all this too.
I
Yeah.
think I think you guys are
Okay.
safe. Yeah.
Yeah.
Can
Yeah. No, you're good.
can I tell you like my top three?
Yeah. Please do.
My top three are Georgia, Nebraska, and Oklahoma. And they all have great NIL departments.
hmm Yeah. Well, you're talking three of the top. Back when I was in college, Nebraska was huge in
Yeah,
football. And,
still are.
the other two you mentioned were nothing to sneeze at. Now
Hmm.
I would probably put Nebraska at the bottom of that list of those three, but still incredible traditions, and, they're in the Big Ten, right? So there's definitely, and there's huge uh, history there. Maybe not as current, but yeah, Georgia right now is just rolling, right? Football,
Yeah,
track. Didn't they win either men's or women's or both?
women's.
Women's.
Yeah, the Elena Kulichenko from used to be from the Soviet Union and then from Cyprus, who I just watched compete last year, right? 2024 in the Olympics. she won her second outdoor, I think, and one indoor. And
Yep.
she was a great podcast guest a couple times. So she's a lot of fun.
Mhm.
Um, I love watching her stuff. What a great layout.
Mhm.
She I don't know if you guys heard that one, but she and I were talking, and I was said, well, you're nudging into competing against the big dogs up there. She got eighth, I think, in the Olympics, and
Yeah.
came just a shade behind Vashti, Cunningham. And I said, what are you going to need to do to compete, against, Ola Sloggers from Australia and, Mahucic, right? All the big ones. And I said, they're jumping like 2 meters plus, at some of these meets. And she's jumped like 194, I think, or 195. And literally she said to me, which is always feels good to be vindicated. But I believe she's just one of those people that's so bendy, what I call super flexible of the bar, that she just doesn't waste a
Yeah.
whole lot of time getting to her layout. She's just like, looks like she's laying out almost as she's taking off the ground. And she told me, and right as I asked her the question, she goes, I need to learn how to wait longer before I lay out, like to
Mhm.
ride my knee drive higher.
Yeah, we always talk about that. We always say like she has no knee drive.
None.
She
Yeah.
has some crazy bend though. Like
Yeah, super flexible, great timing, right?
no knee.
Great awareness of where she is in space. So I would have been a great acrobat or gymnast or something, right? Or a diver. But I look at that and I'm just like, I mean, the knee drive angle, like you guys are probably getting better and better at that, right? There's things that I pick out immediately that I always look at no matter what. And I'm like, she drives that knee up and across, but it's
Mhm.
it's like a flash. It's like it's up and across and then it's done. My favorite example of the guy version of that is Ivanyuk. I don't know if you've watched him from this another Soviet guy, and of course they were banned from the last Olympics, right? Which I won't want to say anything because I don't know, but he's at 5'11", he's jumped 7'9", incredible attack speed, great lean back angle, does a lot of things that I've preached with you guys, and he fires that knee up and across, but that's it. He's just like her. He ditches that knee drive so fast and gets into that position and does end up rotating all the way around, which is the only reason I sit there and I'm like, I can't fault it because, in that position when your head and your feet are on the same level and you're in a high bridge, I'm like, it can't be too early if they can get to that position. So it's like it's weird. But yeah, they're co-conspirators on that flash knee drive, which is one thing you've got spades. I think maybe the best thing about your size is that you knew early that you had to you had to wait a little while to
Yeah.
leave that knee drive alone and let it do its work, right? So you can get your air.
That's
Um,
my other problem too. Like I would be if I would hold my knee on some of my higher jumps, I'm going like 7.5s in meets.
mhm,
Like my 7.2 1/4 jump, I cleared it by like 3 inches, like three to
mhm.
4 inches, but that's because I held my knee all the way up.
Right, right. Yeah. It's a temptation. It's got to be because, and I would say both fortunately and unfortunately for you, you do also have tremendous flexibility up at the top of your jump. So
Yeah.
it's got to be a temptation. It's really an exercise in logic, right? It's like I always just tell people, I go, look, if you think, and this is hard because a lot of these kids, what have they ever seen before they get to me? They've either got a high school coach who doesn't know anything or someone who's giving them bad advice, right? Who says, "Oh, you need to throw your head back," right? And I'm just listening to what coaches say to their kids. I'm like, no, 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 don't tell them to throw their head back right away. They're gonna have to learn how to change the sequence, But it's like they've either got that or they've got YouTube videos where they're just gonna interpret what they see, and if they see a really big move at the layout and not really notice what's going on at takeoff, and that's what seems to get somebody over the bar, you would be tempted to do that, right? I mean, it makes sense. But I say, hey, look, if you've got this unbelievable layout, right? And let's say you come up to a bar and you jump 3 inches higher than you've ever jumped before, and you hit the most beautiful, perfect layout, and everything's wonderful.
That
I
was my
said,
seven
now,
two. Yeah.
what's that?
That was my 7.2 jump. That was the best like everything jump I've ever
Right.
had.
So take that one, right? And but you said it yourself. You've had jumps at 7.2 where you threw a 7.5 kind of knee drive. So I said, hey, If you did everything right, everything's perfect, you're at that meet, and the bar, what does the bar always do? The name of the podcast, raise the bar. It
Hmm.
goes up. No matter what happens, they always come to you. The little guy in the hat comes up and goes, Jordan, you're the only one left. What do you want to go to next? Right.
Hmm.
And there's a lot of people back in the day, you say, well, why do you have to end on three failures? Man, why don't you just say, hey, I'm done. I broke the stadium record. I did this and I made my best jump. I'm out of here. But as humans, we always want to push the envelope, right? We want to see if I can jump any higher than I've ever jumped before. So the bar goes up. And my first inclination, I said, now, at this particular point, after you just hit the perfect layout, everything was perfect. How are you going to get 2 more inches? You're going to get 2 more inches out of that layout, and you can see them doing the math in their head. They're like, that layout was perfect. I said, so you've maxed that out. That particular skill is maxed. Like if you do everything right, I said, picture that same jump that you just did. Was there any way to get 2 inches more out of that with that particular layout? They'll be like, no. I said, okay. So how are we going to make the next bar? I said, you got to go faster. You got to lean more to your left. You have to bang that knee drive up and across, and you're going to have to wait. Now, I don't know how much longer it is to wait for 2 inches of rise, but it has to be some amount of time more than what you've just done,
Yeah.
right? Logically. And so, and I said, if that's difficult to picture, picture 6 inches, you know?
Yeah.
And so how are you going to jump that 6 inches more? You're not going to milk it out of the layup,
Hmm.
and that's why I've had the pleasure of working with young jumpers like yourselves. I don't know if you guys have seen Malachi Carrasco out here
Yeah.
on
Yep.
the coast. Malachi trained with me for a couple years back when he was like eighth and ninth grade, right around COVID. And his videos, he used to jump into his bed,
And a trampoline.
yeah, and this high back art, I mean, beautiful position. And the very first time he jumped, I mean, his foot had not left the ground yet, and he's in that bridge. And I'm like, dude, I love the layout, and we got to work on you just driving your knee up and riding. Simple hurdle hops. Where I'm like, drive the knee up and float it over. Stuff that I watched Brandon Stark doing, for instance, or certain other drills where the knee never comes down. And I'm like, you got to learn how to do that, and he's learned those lessons very well. He jumped 7 feet this year for the first time. But yeah, that temptation, man, that's a tough one to get away from. But it's nice to know that you have that. That's if I had my magic wish list to go back, I was the really inflexible white dude. Like
Mhm.
my little Romanian coach would be like, "You big stiff man, come over here," and he'd like,
Yeah.
here's this, the steeplechase hurdle. He'd be like, lay back over that thing, and I'm sitting there, I hate this. So he's like, here, I'm going to anchor your feet. Here, hold on to this 25-pound weight. I'd be like, like it was torture for me. I
Mhm.
hated all of that stuff. So you having that at the top is amazing. The skill set. So we got you going. You have your three. But the list has got to be bigger than three, right? Are there any other huge programs on that list that you didn't mention?
Probably Kentucky, Cincinnati would probably be up there. Purdue.
Bearcats.
Yep.
Okay. So
That's mhm.
SEC wants you, the Big Ten wants you, and
Yeah.
those are your two. I mean, those are the
I've
two power conferences.
I've talked to a bunch of other ones too. Like I've talked to K-State coaches. I've
Mhm.
talked to like every big school in Florida, UCF,
Right.
Miami.
How about Grand Valley State?
Oh, if I didn't want to go to a D1 school, let me tell you, I would 1,000,000% going
Yeah.
head to Grand Valley. Well, Grand Valley is basically D1.
Well, it is, right? The level for sure. The fact that they're technically only a D2 school, the reason I put that on your list of great places to go, obviously, for those of you out there that have been paying attention, Grand Valley State, which is a D2 NC2A school, has four now jumpers with Marcus Gelpi getting there, last year, that were well over 7.3, I think. And
Yep.
Yeah.
in 2024, they qualified three guys for the Olympic trials.
Yeah,
And
it's
I've
crazy.
never seen a D1 school do that,
The
let alone a D3, two or three.
listen, the people who don't understand Steve Jones, Grand Valley's high jump coach, is one of the best, if not in the nation, in the world at
Yeah,
coaching the event.
without a
Uh,
doubt.
and not just the event. So we got to go. Jordan went to a camp up there over Christmas, and
Hmm.
we got to spend what was it, like a 3 hour camp, Jordan?
Yeah.
Yeah, so camp was 3 hours. Jordan's counselor was Eli Kosiba. So you had Eli on before?
Yeah, we had Eli on a while back. Yeah.
So Eli's an Indiana kid, amazing. But I got to spend about an hour of just straight FaceTime with Steve. Um, his level of care, not just for the event. He's also a really good long jump coach too.
Uh-huh.
His best female long jumper just competed at the Puerto Rican championships. I believe PR took third or fourth. I can't remember. So I mean, he and I think she may have won D2 nationals. Um, but his level of care for his athletes.
Yeah.
When you talk to those kids and they talk about Steve and how much he cares, it's just this perfect
Yeah.
combination of great at the event, and gets the most out of his kid because they know he loves them. I mean,
Yeah.
that's Steve.
Yeah, yeah, that's awesome. Yeah, I've been trying to get him on, but he's I don't know if he's camera shy or what, but had most of the other guys on already and would like to continue. I had Marcus three or four different times. You were mentioning Puerto Rico. Is did he Marcus just did
Yeah,
something
so,
that
yeah.
too?
So Marcus went down and won. He won. Um, so because Marcus and Elena both went down for Steve. So Elena long jumped and ran to 200. Marcus high jumped. Um, One, I think I keep seeing stuff he's been dealing with an injury, and I don't know what it is. I know he dropped off towards the end of the season, so
Yeah,
I some sort of injury issue going on there. But he still won. I think he went 7+. I
yeah,
don't remember what that was, but I know he had gotten to 7.3
yeah.
season this year.
Yeah, he's had an amazing transformation when I first started watching his stuff, and he was one of those jumpers that approached me and said, hey, would you do a post? And I was like, yeah, absolutely, and he was jumping up in Northern California at a junior college and jumping 6'6" and 6'8". So in the last 5 or 6 years of me doing this business, I've been watching him grow, from that level up to, higher levels. And it's good to know because I think there's still just a real lack of high level coaching. Obviously, the lower down you go. If you do have a very well qualified coach and they're pursuing it as a career, because I think there actually are quite a few really good coaches out there that probably just don't even bother to work. At a high school, if you're trying to get married and start a family and do whatever you're doing, it may be difficult to look down the long view of being a college high jump coach as far as how much money can you make. It's like a lot of places are not going to pay you, well enough to stick that out. Maybe eventually, but it's not going to be your highest paying job right away unless you're lucky enough to go to an SEC school or a Big Ten school that has that money flowing downhill from the other big programs and is willing to invest, to compete. Like you said, Georgia, Georgia seems to take pride in the fact that, hey, we're Georgia and we're going to be good at everything. So
Yeah,
we'll take that money from the football and basketball programs and men's and women's, everything we're going to be good at, and if they have that kind of pride in that program, then yeah, you're probably going to be okay there. But that's the other trade secret is that, I would, what advice I'd give you guys is, and it sounds like you're already on the case, is you can go to a great place. That can have fantastic training facilities and have good athletes and everything else and still lack a coach, which
Yeah.
sounds crazy. But UCLA, where I went there, and I haven't made any bones about hiding it, but the first day when I came in and I read this article, you guys die about this, but well before you were born, Jordan, in 1982, in my senior year in high school, I'm reading a Sports Illustrated article about Del Davis, who is still the number one jumper in UCLA school history, who in 1982 at Provo, Utah, the NC2A finals jumped 7'7" and a quarter and came in second to Mel Lottie, who was from Jamaica originally, but was competing for the University of Texas, El Paso, and then ended up, I think, competing for Canada in some weird double switch. But he had jumped 7'7" core and beat Dell on misses. So there's Del Davis. There's Lee Balkin, who holds the state meet high jump record still here in the state of California at 7'3". They were both at UCLA when I got there. And I read this article that said Del Davis jumped 7'7", and his coach, Bob Larson, said, so they got a quote from Bob Larson in the article. And I'm like, wow, these guys are awesome, right? So I'm excited. I asked if I could go to UCLA. Of course, they weren't interested in me until when I jumped 6'10" and 3/4 or something my senior year. Then all of a sudden they're like, oh yeah, well, if you want to walk on, good for you. We'll open the doors for you and you can give it a shot. That was the extent of it. And I walked in the very first day. Bob Larson said, "Oh, Troy Haynes, how you doing?" And Bob Larson shakes my hand and he goes, I work with the high jumpers here, but he goes, but I don't know anything about the high jump." And I was like, my jaw falls wide open. You could see that look. And he's like, but you're going to be working with Del Davis and Lee Balkin. So Dell and Lee were very accomplished jumpers, but it wasn't because of Bob Larson. Bob Larson still to this day, I'm sure would tell you that he doesn't know anything about the high jump, but whatever he knows, he probably learned from Dell and Lee and said, basically, you're going to work with them and they are ipso facto, de facto, your coaches in a way. But these were just two high jumpers, and yeah, they're high level high jumpers and were very helpful. They taught me a lot of things, but they weren't coaches. And I didn't have anybody that was overseeing the program, right? What did we do? We lifted weights, we did plyos, but there was no sets and reps and, these are the days you're going to lift. This is the type of lifting you do. I didn't get my first weightlifting program till I was a senior. And I went in and talked to one of the guys that was doing the football weights. And I said, this is my senior year. I want to have a program where I'm going to do whatever it is that you tell me to do so that I can be as strong as I can be so I can jump really high. And that was Bob Alejo, who was working with the football team, wrote me out a program. And the summer one was so basic, I was almost a joke. When I got the second one from him, I said, hey, we got to pick this up. It was so bizarre. So, the fact that you're at a high place with, some great history and some great jumpers and blah, 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 doesn't necessarily mean. And then here we got the flip side where Steve, at this Division II school that nobody had ever heard of before he got there, is routinely apparently cranking out, these awesome heights, out of his kids where they're all jumping, NC2A qualifiers and all that. So that was my thought for you was getting those guys for sure. But so out of those three now, you said Nebraska, Georgia, and what was the other one? Oklahoma. And I think I asked your dad, I asked him if the guy that was coaching Vernon Turner was still there, and he said he'd left. So
well, no, so that guy is so that's Coach Darrell Langley. He was their jumps coach before Coach Thomas came on. So James Thomas is their head coach and is also their high jump coach.
Right.
He was at Georgia before he was at Oklahoma. I'm trying to remember where he was at before he was at Georgia. So he's a high jump coach all the way back through. When he went to Oklahoma, took over the high jump. Coach Langley is still there, but he's coaching the other jumps and multis for them. But he still works directly with Vernon, from what I understand.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
But the places, so the three that you're talking about that we're talking with him, so you get this weird thing in the track world where in recruiting people will tell you can't go someplace for a coach, right? College sports, you can't go someplace for a coach. But you have to, right? I mean, if you get someplace that just, I won't name names. If there's a school that threw out some stuff towards us that didn't have a coach,
right?
Like, what does that get? Like if he, by the time his high school or his college career is over, is still just jumping 7'2", what did we do? right?
Right.
It's not about like I used to make the joke as his coach about like, well, I just don't want to mess it up.
Right.
And I hate like looking back on that now. I'm like, that's the stupidest thing ever. Like this kid wants to be great. It's my job to, as a coach, learn as much as I can learn to help him get to the next level. So we're programming and we're getting things that are like, okay, you've maxed out all of the things that we put in for a season.
Right.
Next, how do we get you higher? And so as we're talking to those top three, all places with high jump coaches with resumes.
Right.
So I don't know if you remember Dusty Jonas.
No.
So Jonas was jumped at Nebraska. Has the second highest ever NCAA high jump, right behind. Oh shoot, who had the one? Short guy from Louisiana. Why am I drawing a blank?
Mm.
Grant
Uh,
Holloway.
no. Jumped same time around that. Short guy, because they made a big deal. He was just barely over 6 foot tall. I can see him. I've seen the jump. Gosh dang it, Troy, you would know
This
too.
happens to me all the time too. But yeah, I was fortunate enough to jump against Hollis Conway and some of those guys.
No, Hollis. So Dusty has the next lower jump right below Hollis Conway because Hollis still has the NCAA record for high jump. So Dusty had like a quarter inch below Hollis's jump.
Right.
So jump 07, 08, Nebraska, and then went on, had a pretty decent pro career. At one time, number 9 in the world. Jordan, do you remember when we had dinner with him? He won a world. I think he got a bronze in a world championship
Yeah.
at one point, either indoor or outdoor. But so like Dusty at Nebraska, but like the things we've been looking for. So I've taken a long time to get here. We've been looking for programs that have a coach that is good on the men's and women's side both.
Yeah.
They can coach both genders. They know what they're doing, right? And so Dusty squads regularly produce. Like this year, they had 3 girls who were 6 foot plus. He had 3 guys on the guy side that were 7'3" plus.
Right.
Tyus Wilson won NCAA indoor. Didn't have a great out. The outdoor meet was bad for everybody. One Big Ten, is hoping to be able to make the World Championship squad.
Yeah.
Whenever they're out there. Coach Thomas down at Oklahoma. What did they have? Did they have 3 guys that were 7'2" plus this year, Jordan? Because
Yeah.
Julian Winnett. So they had 3 guys that were 7'2" plus. And then Coach Bailey at Georgia, they had 2 guys that were 7 plus. They had the nation. Ryan Rankin was 7'6".
Right.
And then they have an Indiana kid coming in, Brian Stevens. I don't know if you remember. So Brian was at Louisville.
Okay.
Seasons. He's been a 7'3" plus guy. Is transferring from Louisville to Georgia. So I mean, we're looking at. Plus, he coached Elena.
Right.
So we're looking at. Man, are there people out there that can coach genders at a high level?
Absolutely.
Multiple different sizes of athletes, different. That's the big thing. Like if you can do a cross section,
Yeah.
we feel good about that.
Well, are your jumpers getting better? Right. I mean, some places can recruit. It doesn't mean that you're going to walk in the door and get any better, like you said. I think, and that's the trade secret, and some of these places, to their credit, are just really aggressive at finding their talent, which they should be. As it's a competitive industry, right? It's a competitive business. You want to be really good. You're going to get the best athletes, whether you have the guys to continue to train them. Even if they just stay on and doing what they're doing, you've done your job in as far as recruiting the talent goes. But now, like you said, with coaches like, Coach Jones or some of these others that you mentioned, do their athletes get better? How do they compete at these big meets? On and on. So yeah, that's a huge, huge deal for a lot of kids. I don't know that they have maybe the experience, inside the family, or just someone in their ear saying, "Hey," because I learned so many lessons in my life. I've learned the hard way, and I'm not calling that a hard lesson because at UCLA, I did meet some amazing coaches. They just didn't happen to be high jump coaches. So I learned a lot of things from Anthony Curran, one of the best pole vault coaches in the world. I learned a lot of things from Art Venegas, who's one of the preeminent shot and disc guys in the world, and John Smith, one of the best sprint coaches ever, was at UCLA when I was there. And I just was a fly on the wall all the time. You'd be like, what's this high jumper doing down here? I'd be like, well, I'm listening to these guys coach their guys because they perform so well. So, and the weight room, all those things, top flight, and obviously meeting other great athletes and contacts, and there's a lot of positives, to that choice. But as far as picking a coach, I had no idea what that entailed, and it's useless to go back and speculate what it might have been like if I had you know made another choice because I really didn't even think about going anywhere else. Everybody's like, if you want to go to a good track school, you should go to UCLA. I was like, oh, okay. That sounds like a good idea. I'll try going there. Well, what else we got? As let's just talk this next year. The goals, obviously, defending both titles. And Jordan said 7.4 1/4, which is the school record, right?
That's our state record.
State record. Sorry, school record has been yours for a while. Then is there anything else on the horizon for us to talk about before we get to your guys our yearly gig?
I don't think so.
You got any advice for I'm sure there are some people out there listening. I'm planning on there being quite a group once I advertise this and you guys advertise on your end, the podcast. Any advice for the young jumpers out there that want to be like Jordan Randall?
Just never get up. It's hard. It goes in phases. Keep working all the time. Trust God, and don't like compare where you are. Don't compare yourself to anybody else because you might be at two completely different parts in your high jump journey.
Yeah,
So,
that's wise. There are so many kids out there. I don't know if you guys, I know you guys are avid, watchers of stuff as I am. There was one uh, kid that I can't, his name is escaping me right now, but I did a podcast with him because I saw he jumped 6'11" or 7 feet. And he went to, was it McKendree University or something like that? And he just out of nowhere, he jumped 6'7" in high school, and so he wasn't highly recruited. He had gotten injured, messed his knee up a little bit. And then, all these jumps, oh gosh, I should be able to look at the list. Um, he ended up jumping 7 feet. He improved 5 inches, this first year in college. And I think immediately left. Of course, transfer portal has called, and he's, somebody else is gonna nab him and give him a better deal. But yeah, I mean, from 6'7" in high school, now 6'7" can win, as you guys know, some of the
oh
states,
yeah.
depending on which state you're in. California, no. Texas, no. But actually, the California statement this year was one with 6'9", which I still don't get. I thought there was a lot of kids. We had 17 jumpers cleared 6'6" in the prelim, and then the final was only one at 6'9". But I do believe they made the mistake of this meet was 104 degrees also, and
Ugh.
they held it in that heat, even though it didn't start till 3. It was just baking hot, and I've been a proponent for a while. I would like to see them change that 2-day state meet because my senior year, I don't think I would have won. I'm looking back at it. There was a guy named John Morris who jumped at Cal and jumped 7'7", was in the field from up north that I had never seen before. And then one of the great California State high school jumpers. I think was a three-time state champ, Maurice Crumby, who ended up going to Arizona, jumped 7.5, right? So, and I knew about Crumby because I jumped against him indoor, the only indoor meet I ever went to in high school. And so, with all that said, I was just about as cocky as anybody else, and I had jumped, 6'10" and 6'10" and 3/4, and then 10 and a half the 2 weeks before state. And when we went up to state, I think there were 13 of us cleared 6'8" on Friday night. And I'm like, that's pretty good crowd, right? 13 guys over 6'8" is a lot. And then, the next day, like I said, I didn't have anything. I jumped 6'6" and came in ninth. But if we would have held that final that night, one night, boom, done. I had myself pegged for top three at least. So I don't like the 2 day. I would like to have at least one day in between. But how are you going to get everybody up to an area? Like you guys know, the logistics are tough. You got to have hotels and all that stuff, laid out. And so it's would be difficult in high school, I would say, instead of 2 days, either separated by none or one, just do it all in one shot, if there was a way to do that. And they did it for a while. I think mine in 82 was the last of the 2 day state meets for a while, and then now they're back to it. But yeah, anyway. So, well, hey, gentlemen, I appreciate your time. And man, it's always good to talk with you guys. You let me know this week, James, about
Yep.
when we can look at videos and all that. I'm always excited to go over that stuff with you guys. And Jordan, it's good to get to talk to you and hear what's going on inside your head.
Mhm.
Um, Hearing about your three schools of choice, and of those three, which one is at the top of the list right now? Can you say? Are you
Georgia.
still in Georgia's at the top?
Georgia, yeah.
Okay. Yeah, awesome. Did you when you have you been there? Did they take you on a trip?
No, I'm going on all my visits in the fall.
Okay. Yeah,
Hmm.
I was going to ask if you'd had a chance to meet Elena, but she may or may not be there when you get to visit.
I'm
Um,
probably gonna make my decision before indoor season.
yeah,
Mhm.
but after the visit, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah,
When does
we'll get all his visits probably during like during football season, and then I think our timeline is Thanksgiving ish
yeah,
around there, so that way when we're getting ready to start
yeah,
into indoor meets, it's already done, know where we're going, and
yeah.
can just
So
your year and just go compete.
late November is when the season starts, or is that when you start
We'll
jumping
we'll
in?
start we'll start unattached meets in December, but it'll be like we'll do like what we did like this year. By the time we got all the way through indoor and outdoor, I think he had either 16 or 17 meets.
Yeah,
But we'll do one in December, just kind of a rust buster, and like whatever when we talk later this week about like what are the changes we're going to make this fall,
yeah,
we always like to use that meet in December as kind of a okay, let's go test out in live competition what we've been working on for the past couple
right,
months,
right.
and back to the lab, and do one or two in January and maybe one in February, and then
Yeah.
March is full go.
Sure. Yeah, it's well, yeah, that's the one thing I keep throwing out there is it's a long season, and you guys probably already have done more, than most will inside of a stretch of years with just with the indoor stuff alone. And then like you said, adding in any summer extras. This year you had the Nike Nationals and all that, so just even the one or two, the under 20s. Well, hey, thanks again. We'll reconvene later this week. You guys have yourself a good day.
Thank
Stay
you.
out of trouble out
All
there,
right.
and we'll check back in with you. Let me know, how it goes. It doesn't have to be this week. So I know your schedules. You were saying something about a visit or a talking with another coach. So
Yep.
all right, gentlemen, thanks for being our guests on Raise the Bar. Again, we were
Thank
talking
you.
with James and Jordan Randall. James is the brain power, motivational force, support guru behind Jordan. Jordan is a 5'6" or 5'7", depending on who's measuring him, high jumper. I don't know if that depends on which shoes you're wearing, Jordan,
Probably
but
closer to 5'7".
he's 5'7" and has jumped a foot and a couple inches over his head. Now, what is that? 5'7"? It's 5 inches to a foot. So
Mhm.
that's a foot and
19 and
five,
19 and a quarter.
19 and a quarter inches over his own head, which is amazing. And yeah, if we ever do have a celebrity dunk contest, we got to get you out there just for
Okay.
the Spud Webb references alone.
Hmm.
All right, gentlemen, it's been an honor. Thanks for spending your morning with us here on Raise the Bar.
Thanks,
Yeah.
Coach.
Thank you, Coach.
All right, we'll talk soon.
Yep. See ya.
See ya. All right, well, that's going to wrap it up this morning here on Raise the Bar. We had as our guests James and Jordan Randall. Uh, James is the dad of Jordan, and he has been coaching him for quite a while now. It's been a blessing for me to work with James, with Jordan, but through James mostly as the liaison. But their relationship, I know he's a man of faith, and Jordan is just a hard-working, no-nonsense kind of kid, highly motivated and highly performing. From the get-go. Like I said, James mentioned the fact that they got in contact with me after his eighth grade year, so before he started his senior season, or sorry, his freshman year at in Indiana, at Warsaw. They we did a just their first consult, video analysis. He asked me what he thought, what I thought of Jordan and what he could do. And I made a couple real simple recommendations, which were, you know, he's obviously really talented. He's super bendy. You got to teach him to ride his knee drive a little bit more. I mean, the stuff that we talked about was what I would call the basics. And sometimes, even though they may seem simple, or not that easy to implement. I told him he needed to move Jordan farther away from the bar, for instance. That is easy to say. It's really easy to say. And I know firsthand it is not always that easy to do with a jumper. But pretty much everything that I recommended that he do with Jordan, he did. And Jordan just immediately got better and better and better. So the association has continued. We do it every year before the start of the year and throughout. They will send videos and we will talk about technique, technical things, drills, and we'll talk about lifting and plyos and everything. So those of you out there listening, again, to Raise the Bar with Troy Haynes, the Sky High and Fly guy, that's what I do. I really enjoy working with young athletes that want to get better. And if you want someone's help, that is something that I am passionate about. It doesn't matter where you are. I have worked with athletes as far away, believe it or not, as India, doing virtual sessions, which is amazing. But Instagram, a shout out to Instagram, their Instagram FaceTime works from halfway around the world. Jumper that I worked with in India, we were 13 hours apart, and sometimes a little lag here and there, but we got a lot of stuff done on Instagram FaceTime. I've had athletes doing virtual sessions from Louisiana, from LSU. I've done it from, again, the great state of Indiana. Haven't done anything live with Jordan, but James will take drills and just show me the videos and say we're trying this. You mentioned, knee drive and ride, knee drive up and across. One thing I mentioned was getting hands up. If you've some of you may be in here still with your hands. Jordan gets both hands all the way up at takeoff, right? Is maximum air, I call it. And so again, I kind of wandered off there. If you want help, send me a DM. Questions to the Sky High and Fly guy. You can find that site. Still trying to figure out which one I want to put for the mailbag. Would love to answer questions on the mailbag. If you would like a virtual session, if you would like training, weightlifting, plyos, we have those programs. And I'm going to begin start putting out both on YouTube and on my site downloadable content, subscription package, stuff like that, where you can see how to train. And, again, the trade secret in the high jump here in the US is that, like I said, even though there are plenty of great talented athletes and there are a lot of people who are qualified to coach and are may have been excellent coaches at a certain time in their careers, or maybe they did it for a while and stopped doing it. There's just a lack of really good coaches. I don't think there's a lack of the talent for it, but I think maybe getting paid for it or whatever. Like I said, it's not always the highest paying job. So, but love doing it, love working with athletes and watching them get better, which I like to think that I'm pretty good at that. So that is going to wrap it up here. Thanks again, James and Jordan Randall. Awesome. You heard Jordan is looking at three preeminent colleges, and Georgia is a national power in just about everything. And that's where he's leaning. So you have to stay tuned. As soon as I know, I'll probably do an update podcast and say, hey, Jordan Randall has signed at this university. So he told us we'll find that out somewhere in the middle of football season. And until next time, that's going to do it here on Raise the Bar. Keep listening. If you haven't subscribed, please do so. Go ahead and hit the subscribe button there on YouTube. We are also on Apple Podcasts and Spotify. We're looking to get us some sponsors here and continue kind of projecting for the jumps in specific. High jump usually first, long triple and pole vault. I've worked as well, but love the sport of track and field, and we're always trying to promote from within. So until next time, Troy Haynes, Sky High and Fly Guy, signing off. Have a good one.